Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Adrielle, and I am currently narrating a story of my life dating back from January 2016. In the previous episode, I stopped at January 2022, and I talked about how my power was disconnected. So, in this episode, I am going to talk about the rest of the month of January up until March 1st. And so, here it goes. So January 20th of 2022, my power is disconnected, but thankfully enough, my mom sent me $300. So what ended up happening was I reached out to Esther again. I told her about what happened and that if she could use her debit card to pay for my light bill, and I would give her the cash. So what I ended up doing was I drove to Esther's place again, paid for my light bill through her card, and I gave her the cash for it. So that was what happened. So with the light bill, with the whole passport picture, and me needing to get certain things for myself, money was running low. So January 23rd, I get a call from my mom. She calls me and she tells me that my aunt is in Atlanta. She flew into Atlanta, but the airline had their luggage behind. And she wasn't going to get her luggage until Tuesday. So the 23rd was a Sunday. So she wasn't going to get her luggage until Tuesday. She wanted to call me and let me know if it was possible for me to take her to like some stores for her to get clothes and toiletries. I'm like, sure, I can do that. Just let me know where she's at and I'll pick her up. So she gave me the address. I went to see my aunt in the hotel she was staying in. It was her and some other people who were there for the convention. So their luggages were also behind as well. So she asked if it was okay for me to bring those other people along to the stores. I'm like, sure, that's fine. So I took them out for them to get whatever they need. When it was time for me to go back home, my aunt says, hey, take this. Y'all, it was $100. My aunt gave me $100, and she didn't even know I needed it. Well, she knew I was unemployed, but y'all, I needed that money. So she was like, just take care of yourself. I know about the whole job situation. Just continue believing God and, just take care of yourself. So I was like, thank you so much, Auntie. So yeah, y'all, God used my aunt to bless me with $100. After that, I had fasted for 3 days, which was the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th. Also on the 26th, I had filed my taxes, y'all. Filed my taxes, and I was like, listen, I don't have a job yet, but whatever money I get from my refund, which was enough to hold me down up until I, got a job, I said I was going to use that money and be a good steward of it until whatever job opportunity came my way. So that was what happened. Also, too, in the month of January, at towards the end, my mom also sent me money as well. So that was pretty much what happened in the month of January. Other things that happened was I was crying. I remember by the 31st and the 30th, I was crying concerning the whole job situation because I had applied to another data scientist position with London, and I moved over to the next round with the whole coding assessment, didn't make it there. So now I'm just like, man, I'm just so tired. I'm tired with this whole London situation. I just want a job. Like, I'm tired of suffering. At this point, y'all, my rent, I talked about in previous episodes how I didn't pay rent for the month of October, November, December, and January. I owed $8,031.89 in my rent, or for rent. And then my account, I had a negative $332.27 from my account. So all of the money I had was cash. So yeah. But there was one thing I do want to talk about, y'all. I want to talk about Brandon. So I remember in previous episodes, I talked about how I was having dreams of people basically yelling at me about Brandon, leave him alone, stay away from him. Well, in the month of January, I remember there was one night I was in bed, about to go to sleep, but I was just thinking a lot. And that was when I started to discern why I was having those dreams. So the people in the dreams that were yelling at me about Brandon and just being so mad that I was like in the same space as him. Those people, those friends, those quote unquote friends, they were symbolic for demons. That was God's way of letting me know that demons were in Brandon's life. Now, here's the thing about that. I thought that was very interesting to learn, because one of the demons that I was able to discern that was operating in Brandon's life was the spirit of lust. Um, Sometime back in May 2019, there was a night where I was on Instagram, and this was back when Instagram had the following feature. I was on Instagram probably like 1 a.m., and I remember going to my burner account where I was following Brandon, and Brandon had liked a bunch of pictures of half naked women, and and from the following section, it said 15 minutes ago. So in my mind, I'm like, it's after 1 a.m. So this guy was liking pictures around midnight. um, I remember going to the girl's page. He was liking pictures from 2018. So I'm like, oh no, he was really going deep into this girl's Instagram, liking probably like 7 or 8 pictures. So I'm like, I hope he's not jacking off to her pictures. So that was when the idea of, I think he's struggling with lust started coming to my mind. So fast forward to January 2022, and I thought about all those dreams. I'm like, oh yeah, the spirit of lust was on him, and he was operating, um, or the spirit was operating through him, and yeah, so that was the revelation or discernment that I got about Brandon in the month of January 2022. So in the month of February, y'all, I started the month with the interview with the rental assistance program. So, like I mentioned back in my January episode, I set up a meetup with the rental assistance program that I got rental assistance back in 2021. So, that was what happened on February 1st. I get there and I'm talking to one of the workers there. They take all my information, my direct deposit, tax returns, everything. So I was only qualified for $1,000, y'all. I was only qualified for $1,000. But here's the thing: they were only going to give me that $1,000 if I had proof of paying off what I had left. So if they gave me that $1,000, I still had 7,000 and some change to pay off of my rent. They said that if I can't provide proof of paying off that $7,000 and some change, they can't give me that $1,000. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But the good part of the whole interview was that they had a free pantry so I could get groceries. So that was very beneficial for me. I took a lot of stuff that I needed. So yeah. At this point, y'all, I only have $39 left in cash. I still have my negative balance on my account. And just for like the first half of February, I was just being so consumed about the whole job situation, rent situation, and just being tired. I remember there was a time where I was just crying to God, and I was saying to him like, Lord, I just want things to start moving because it felt like my life was just stagnant, y'all. And I didn't see the purpose of it. Like I know I'm in the wilderness, but at this point in 2022, what is there to train? What is there to prune? Like I don't understand why the wilderness is the way it is right now. I just didn't get it, and I just didn't like the stagnancy of just me staying in my apartment and things just weren't moving. So I just became so discouraged. Like I said, I was applying to other roles in London or at London, and I was just getting denial after denial. Actually, recruiters were emailing me telling me, "Oh, this position is closed," and it was really taking a toll on me. By February 21st, I got an update from the statewide rental assistance program. They were asking me to send in my bank statements, my utility bills, and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, this is up and running, y'all. So that was what was happening with the statewide rental assistance program. Now, towards the end of February, starting from the 23rd, y'all, I started to have this temptation to check on Brandon. Well, let me go back a little bit. It really started on the 16th. So, February 16th, I remember just being on my period. And I was thinking about Brandon and thinking about the fact that, man, it's been a whole year since the reconnection post. It's been a whole year since I've checked his Instagram and Caitlin's Instagram. I wonder what's going on. By the 23rd, y'all, I really started to have thoughts of check on Brandon, check on Brandon. I remember getting letters in the mail about Brandon's old gym to like join and stuff like that. So that reminded me of Brandon. So that temptation was just creeping up on the 23rd, the 24th. I remember seeing a video on YouTube of a lady. She does like prophetic words, and she said that there's someone here, there's something you're going to see that's going to cause you to be discouraged, to be dismayed or whatever, but God is in control, something like that. I watched the video, didn't think much of it. But as the days were going by, wrapping up February, I was just thinking about I need to check Brandon. So by the end of February, I remember I said to God, I said, Lord, if you want me to check Brandon, let me get an email on March 1st about him changing his address. That was what I said. Let me get the email by March 1st before 6 p.m. If I get the email, then I will check on Brandon. If I don't, I won't. So, just to wrap up February, like I said, ending of February, I'm just thinking about this whole Brandon situation because it was really creeping on me. I owed $9,707.21 in rent. My credit score was 382. Also, I had gotten an email from my car insurance that I needed to pay for my insurance that month. And what else happened? I also got a direct deposit from my state refund as well. So that was what happened in the month of February. So, y'all, I'm going to talk about March 1st. Okay, so it's March 1st. I hadn't yet gotten any email concerning Brandon changing his address. But that day, y'all, I was just so nervous. I had so much anxiety because the thought of me actually checking Brandon, I was just so afraid to see anything that was gonna make me emotional. So I said, you know what? It's not yet 6 p.m. I have to wait till 6 p.m. Until I get the email that Brandon changed his address. So that day, I'm kind of like all over the place. I'm restless. So around 4:45 slash 5 p.m. ish, I decided to work out at my apartment's gym just to get that anxiety and nervousness off of me and just to get my mind off of the possibility of me checking Brandon that day. So I go out, I work out, I come back. I come back probably like 40 minutes later, and y'all, I just have knots in my stomach. Just my palms are getting sweaty. Check my email. I don't get an email that Brandon changed his address. I said, you know what? I'm going to check. I'm going to check. I don't care. I know I told God to send me a confirmation with the email, but I was like, I'm just going to check. So, y'all, I picked up my phone. Oh, my goodness. I had so much butterflies in my stomach, so much anxiety and nervousness going on. I Googled Brandon's name. I Googled his name. The first thing that popped up was his Instagram. Now, here's the thing. When his Instagram popped up in the Google search, the pictures didn't pop up. It's just like a brief description of his profile. Something I thought was interesting that I saw was that I saw that he had 82.5K followers. Now, that surprised me because, y'all, when I last saw Brandon on Instagram, which was the reconnection post, he had 96.7K followers. So a year later, he had 82.5K. he lost almost 15,000 followers. Just like, how did he lose almost 15,000 followers within 1 year? That was weird to me. And the reason why it was weird was because, y'all, throughout the time I knew about Brandon and I checked on him, that was 2018 to 2021, Brandon's followers were only increasing. He went from 30,000 to 97, and then he dropped to 96.7 in 3 years. So, how did he lose 15K, almost 15K in 1 year? I was like, okay, I don't understand why that happened. And also, too, another thing, I was surprised because when I saw the reconnection post, I really thought that Caitlyn and Brandon were gonna capitalize off of the reconnection and they're gonna gain a whole new fan base and try to garnish new garner new followers. So for to see him losing that many followers, that was a shock to me. Anyways, I saw that and I felt like I didn't have the courage to check his Instagram, so I exited out the Google webpage. So I was like, okay, no, I need to go back. I need to go back to see what's going on. So here's the thing, y'all. I wasn't on Instagram at this point. Now, I still have my burner accounts. Actually, I had created two. I had two burner accounts, but I said I don't want to go back to any of those accounts. I am going to check on Brandon with the Instagram third party website. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, but there's so many like third party Instagram websites where you can watch people's stories and check their page without actually having an Instagram account. So I did that, y'all. I did that, and the first picture I saw, I'm going to post it on the screen. It's a picture of Brandon and Caitlyn kissing. And that picture was posted in February. So I saw that and I was like, oh my goodness, they're still together. They're still together. Wow. I actually thought that he may have moved back to Atlanta. That was the reason why his address kept on changing. But yeah, him and Caitlyn were still together. So here's the thing, y'all. When I was going through his page on this third party Instagram website, I didn't go through every single picture because I was filled with a lot of anxiety and disappointment and stuff like that. So I remember the next picture I saw of Brandon was a picture of him, Caitlyn, Lily, and a newborn. And I'm like, what? Y'all, Caitlyn had another child. I was like, you have to be kidding. It was a photo shoot, and I'm going to post the picture on the screen. I was like, you have to be kidding. Caitlyn had another baby? No way. So, y'all, I'm going down. Now, mind you, I'm not seeing every picture because it was just too much for me. The next picture I saw, y'all, I saw a picture of Brandon and Caitlyn. They had a pregnancy photo shoot. And in the caption, he said, me, you, and this growing family. And that was posted back in August of 2021. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, you like this is a joke. Y'all, the next picture I saw was a picture of Brandon and Caitlyn feeding each other a wedding cake while Caitlyn is wearing a wedding dress and Brandon is wearing a suit. Y'all, Brandon and Caitlyn got married. And I'm going to stop the episode right there, y'all. Next episode, I'm going to talk about all the emotions that was going through my mind, everything that happened that day. It was a lot, y'all. I went through a lot that month of March. I'm going to talk about it next episode. So if you're liking an unlikely story, please like, comment, and subscribe. And also, please share my videos as well. And until next time, bye.